I had no idea about the bare bile industry.
Yeah.
And I was really interested in, both of you have done work around conservationism, which I guess at times, especially from an outside perspective, can seem quite dangerous, or you can be putting yourself at risk. Also, when you are very outspoken about environmental issues, you do have people online posting, often threatening as well. How have you handled that side of the job? And you know, both of you work in very similar things as a stepfather, but also seeing it towards Chris as well. How have you navigated that?
Well, I mean, Meg's came out to, we'd started doing something with a lady called Ruth Peacey and I. We're going out to Malta, and this is about illegal bird hunting in the Mediterranean, and we'd gone on to Cyprus, where things are quite heavy, you know, and you've got to be really careful with it. If you get caught by these people, they're not going to let you go without a good beating. And you know, Meg's came out there, and we were working with Ruth, and the situation can be sort of quite hectic and volatile. But look, you know, we don't tend to think about that, I don't think. We think about the issue and what we have to do to make things right. So you tend to put those sorts of things to the back of your mind, you know. And again, you know, the bare bile people aren't particularly friendly either. So there's many of these situations where large sums of money involved and a lot of vested interest, and they don't want to change. And we're trying to change them more rapidly than they even want to think about. So there's always going to be pushback. And I think you get that online as well. I mean, that is our biggest problem. You know, we know that we have to change our practices and our minds, but people are reluctant to do so. And a tiny percentage of those people tend to lash out, whether it's on social media or you're in a field in Cyprus and someone's waving a big iron bar at you. You know, it's that's part and parcel of the job, really. And you can't allow that to intimidate you, you know, because we're on a mission, and we think that mission is right, and we've got to do whatever we can as individuals and with the people that we work with to, you know, to see that through. So you just can't allow those sorts of threats to intimidate you. And in fact, if I'm honest with you, from my point of view, they spur me on to do more. You know, if people threaten me or they damage my property or threaten to damage me, I just think, like, do you know what? I'm going to get up earlier tomorrow. I'm going to work even harder to change what you're doing that's wrong, you know.
Yeah. And what about you, Megan?
I think when you're like confronted with, you know, animal welfare issues, like, you know, birds in Malta being shot, caught in lime sticks, mist nets, and you know, you see some terrible things firsthand. The bears, for example, that, you know, some of those images will remain in my mind forever. And a lot of the time, like that, it's hard for people to watch on a documentary, but to actually be there and see it in person is a very different thing. But I think when you're in those kind of situations, you're so motivated by what you're seeing and thinking, nobody knows about this issue. If I'm not here to report it and document it, then this is never going to change. In 10, 15, 20 years' time, these bears are still going to be here. These birds are still going to be getting caught. And the issue's going to go on, and if not, get worse. And as the biodiversity crisis gets worse, that's going to become more catastrophic. So if I'm not here doing it, then who else is? And you kind of, you know, when you get home, you can deal with, you know, what you've seen and process that and all of that kind of stuff. But when you're there, it's like, God, I'm doing something. God, I'm doing something. And you feel good that, you know, you're not just sat at home, you know, worried. Because for me, it's better to be on the ground and actually trying to change something than at home worrying about, you know, the future of the planet. So there's that element of, you know, the direct implications. I mean, the stuff online, you're always, like Chris said, you're always going to get something when you're trying to change people's mindsets. And I think the closer you get to that transition, the change flipping to the good side, is when people are going to push back even more, and you're going to get, you know, harsher threats. You know, Chris has had his gates burned down, and we've had, you know, animals left at the front door. It sounds really bad because you should never get desensitized to it, but I think over time we probably have a little bit too much. But I mean, it means you're making some headway, right? It means you're, you know, you're ruffling the right feathers.
My friend Billy Bragg says, if you're not getting flack, you're not over the target, and I think you've got to accept that. You know, if people are writing nasty things about you, it's because you've challenged them, and that's our job sometimes, is to challenge people, to get them to think. That's what it's about. We're trying to get people to have a conversation, either broadly or with themselves, so that they can run through a process where they come out the other side and think, okay, I've got to change what I'm doing, and that's what we're asking. But then again, I suppose there are other issues when there's no ambiguity about the fact that it's illegal. So the bird killing in Cyprus and Malta, for instance, then you're not asking people to change there. You're trying to get the law upheld. So you're trying to get evidence. You're working closely with the police, trying to get them onto the site. You're trying to push through prosecutions and so on and so forth. And of course, that just again brings you into conflict. I've got to say on the other side, just to be very honest with you, that you always get a bit of a buzz about it as well. the closer you are when you're hiding in the dark in a bush.
Oh my God, there's no feeling quite in Cyprus.
I mean, you're kind of terrified,
Yeah.
because if they catch you, you're in deep trouble. They like I say, they're not going to let you off without a good beating, or they're going to strip all your clothes off, or they're going to smash your car up and throw away the keys. I mean, it's not going to go well. But when you're there in the bushes in the dark, and you can hear these people moving around, you've got to wait for them to go, and then you're going to get their mist nets and everything else like that. It is actually very.
It's adrenaline, isn't it?
It's exciting, yeah.
It's an adrenaline thing.